Hello. I'm building a box for my girlfriend, and I thought I would make some videos on how I'm doing it. So, all right. So let me show you. So I'm building a box, and it's the Phantom of the Opera theme. So I'm following a picture that I got on the internet and off Google, and so it's going to be a rose here, and I'm doing all the little pieces, and then the ribbon, and then I'm gonna have a mask. This mask, I'm gonna put it in, so it's gonna look something like that, and then I'm gonna try to burn shades. Anyway, so I thought I would just show how I'm doing the inlay. So what I do is, so I'll use the table saw. So this is only like half an inch now, but I bought like 3/4 of an inch wood. So it starts out like this thick. I ripped it on my table saw. I don't really have the right tools for all this, but I ripped it on the table saw here, maybe like in half, or try to get it close to like 1/4 of an inch. And then I bought this electric hand planer, so it's like a jointer, but I run that over it to get the right thickness that I want, and so I can end up with about like that thick of wood, or even thinner would be better. This is a little bit too thick. And then I draw on the wood. I use graphite paper. I buy graphite paper, and I tape it with just some painter's tape onto the wood, and then I put my picture that I'm drawing, that I'm tracing off of. I put that over the graphite paper, and then I trace with a pencil along the lines, and that's how I get my pictures. And then once I get the wood to the right thickness, I come over here to my bandsaw, which is an old crappy bandsaw here, and I put this piece of scrap wood down so that it'd be flat, because up here close to the blade there's there's a hole down into the. I don't want to take this off, but there's a hole that goes around the blade. It's just a hole. There's no metal or anything there. So it's hard to get the small pieces up real close without them dropping into that hole. So I put this flat piece of wood on here. That helps. So I can only get the wood to about this thickness with the table saw and the hand planer. I could get it thinner, but it's after this. I just so I'll draw. Say I was doing that rose. This rose out of this wood, which is bloodwood, and so I'll draw the petals or whatever I want on here, and then I'll come over here and I'll cut like a square out, just a square that has my petal on there, and then what I do is I take it and I run it through the bandsaw like this, like that, to make it a little bit thinner because it's easier to inlay. So like these are a bunch of the cutoffs. I cut this in half. And then that'll be my inlay. So it's about like that, a little bit thicker than that. And yeah, so that's what I do. And then I buy the double-sided tape. On Amazon you can get like a roll of double-sided tape for $10, and you put the tape on one side, then you peel it off, and then so you have the sticky layer on the bottom. And then you gotta stick it exactly where you want it. Stick it exactly where you want it on your piece. So this is the lid of the box. Stick it exactly where you want it. And then you take an X-Acto knife and you carve around the piece of wood that you have taped here. So here's one I'm doing right now. I'm doing the ribbon. So I have the piece already cut out. This is ebony wood. And so I taped it down, and then what I did was I just went along with the X-Acto knife and cut into the wood like this. And then when you take it off, here, I'll take it off. Sorry, I'm using my phone. That's why the video is all shaky, because I don't have a tripod or anything. I don't do YouTube videos and stuff, so I use a putty knife here to try to take it off. You gotta be careful because you might break it. So see, I'm under it now. Pop it out. That's what the double-sided tape looks like. It's just a thin layer. And then so there would be a piece that you peel off. Alright, so, and then that's what you're left with. You're left with a clear outline that you can cut into. And I got all these methods from the Wood Whisperer. He has a channel on YouTube. It's pretty cool. Anyway, so then this is the old router I'm using. And so what I would do, let's see if I can show you guys. I'm not going to show you. But what I would do is I would set the depth by, this is the plunge release. So I'd release the plunge. Release the plunge so it's all the way out. And then what I would do is I'd come over here with the router and set it down flat to the surface so that the router bit that I'm using, which is a 1/8 inch, I think, router bit. Anyway, you can't see that. I would set it down until it touches the wood, and then what I would do is I'd come over here and so let's say that the depth of the wood is like, let's say that the depth of the wood is like that, whatever, let's just pretend. And so what I would do is I'd take this piece here, and I'd put it in between this until it just fit, and then I would make it just a little bit smaller by turning this thing so that the actual piece is raised above the surface by like 1 millimeter. And then I would come back, I'd release the plunge, and then I would just push it all the way down until it touches that and lock it in, and that'll be your depth that you cut. And then all it is you gotta take that router and trace in the lines there, and just hollow this out, get the middle first, and then make sure that there's just like 1 millimeter or so like that from the edge by the time you're done, you're ready for the edge. And then you just come along, and you have to have a bright light, so I use this light here, and you come along the edge, and you just wait for you can see that the wood will like fly up when it gets to this cut line, and then it'll just like peel out, and it'll be a nice clean cut because it'll just follow your knife blade here. So you gotta be really careful, but if you just go close enough to it, that it'll just be a nice fine line. And it's really hard to get it exactly. You can see that I have like a bunch of gaps here in the corners in here, which you can fill with glue and sawdust. So I'm using the sawdust from the background wood, and when I put the glue in, I put the glue in the groove that I'm gonna cut. I put it in, and then I dump a bunch of sawdust in there, and I mix it up so it's like a wood paste, sawdust paste. And then I push the piece down into the hole, and then all that glue sawdust stuff will come squirting up through the sides, squeeze out, and then that will fill some of the gaps. And then if you still have gaps, I still have gaps here, you come back later and you just smear that paste over the top, and then you have to sand it down. The corners are tricky. You have to use those sharp corners. You have to use a chisel. You can't. The router won't be able to get those, so you have to use a chisel. So I use like these kind of chisels here, real old chisels, and then an X-Acto knife. You can get the corners with the X-Acto knife too. That's it. This is like basic. I don't know how to really do all this stuff very well, so this is just how I'm doing it. I don't have the right tools. My dad's a construction worker, so that's why I have what I have, but it's just a real basic table saw. Basic, really old bandsaw, old light, everything's old, but you can still make it work. And one last thing, if you're gonna get started with something like this for like a girlfriend, for a gift, I would recommend getting one of these card scrapers. They're called cabinet scrapers, and you scrape it across the surface of the wood, and it'll like shave off the wood so you can see the shavings, and it saves the sandpaper. You just scrape off initially, scrape off all the inlay, and it'll be way easier to sand, and it's just better. All right, sorry about the long video. I don't really make videos. I just wanted to show you guys. All right, thanks. Bye.